I'm Clark Hilton with Capital Community Media. Come join us as we take a ride on one of Cherriots' new battery electric buses. As we settle in, we are going to travel on Route 11, where these first buses will be in service. It's a 12-mile zero-emissions corridor running from Keizer Transit Center to the southeast corner of Salem, with a significant portion of its run along Lancaster. With me is Tom Dietz. He's the Chief Operations Officer at Cherriots, and he's the expert on these new battery electric buses, or BEBs as they're called, and he's going to answer some questions on the trip. So, Tom, why don't we start with this? How many buses are in the fleet?
So we currently have 10 battery electric buses, or BEBs, in our yard right now, and they're rolling out into service as we speak. And we have 10 more on order that will go into production next December.
All right. Can you tell us how the funding came about for these buses?
Sure. So the Federal Transit Administration, which is our major source of funding, has a low or no emissions grant opportunity that comes out. And we applied in 2019 and we were not successful. And then we submitted a second application with the intent to go to battery electrics in fiscal year 2020. And we were successful. We won an award for 5 BEBs. And then in a very rare case, we got a back-to-back award. So in fiscal year 2021, we received another grant award for another 5, giving us the 10 buses that we have in our fleet right now.
Wow, very cool. Route 11, first one to get these battery electric buses. What was the reason behind dedicating them to this line specifically?
So Route 11 is our longest, most heavily traveled route in the system. And it covers from the farthest south point in our service area to the farthest north point. So it goes from the Marion County Correctional Campus all the way up to Keizer Transit Center. It's the highest exposure and where a lot of the traffic is in Salem.
Was there going to be any impact to the riders as these buses start phasing into service?
I would like to say no, because when this vehicle pull up to a stop and a rider wants to get on board, it is just like getting on board any Cherriots bus, just a little more quiet.
And we'll talk about that in a little bit. What are some of the ways these BEBs will benefit the Salem Keizer community?
So really from direction from our board of directors, it's really about reducing tailpipe emissions in our communities. Our buses go all throughout the Salem Keizer area, and it's really being conscious of the environment and reducing tailpipe emissions. And so the Route 11 obviously made sense for us to choose that for electrification. And we were able to procure enough buses to cover the entire Route 11, so that's why we named it the Zero Emissions Corridor. And you see along the route, the bus stop toppers are different. They're green with a bus saying that it's zero emissions. And so it made sense.
Do you see putting these buses on other routes at a point later in the future, or?
Yes, absolutely. So right now we have a board desire to be zero emissions as soon as possible. So we're currently working on what would become a board resolution to become zero emissions total fleet. So not just revenue vehicles, but non-revenue vehicles as well. So yeah, so with 10 more coming within the next 22 to 24 months, we'll have nearly half of our fleet, the local fixed route fleet, will be battery electric.
Wow. What are some of the challenges of putting these buses into service, just because they're different?
Yes, they are different, and so there's things like all kinds of industry jargon. So range anxiety is a very real thing that we
range anxiety?
Yes. So what that really means is if my bus does 300 miles in a day, can I get 300 miles out of a single BEB out on the route? Going off of the manufacturer's specifications, no. So I can get 160 if I'm lucky on a good day. So we've taken steps to mitigate that, which you'll see later as we get to the Keizer Transit Center. We've done some districts call it opportunity charging. We call it en-route charging. So as the bus is going through its day, if it dips below 65% state of charge, then we can park on top of the inductive pickup pad, lower the bus, and get a charge while it's there on its recovery period.
Does weather affect the charge at all, like hotter days as opposed to colder days or anything like that? Or
So we're still very new at this inductive pickup game. So we're one of 2 transit districts on the continent that has the 300 kilowatt per hour chargers. But we're the first to have it in operation. So what we've learned is on really hot days, we do have to allow for cooling because at 300 kilowatts per hour, that's a lot of power in a short amount of time. So we're still figuring that out, but there is a cool down period. But for cold weather, snow, ice, that sort of thing, it does not impede the charging because it's a magnetic field.
Sure. So let's talk a little bit about the recharging process at the bus barn or the operations center. It looks like it's more what people would expect, that type of plug-in that you do. Talk a little bit about this inductive recharging, because folks who have cell phones are going to actually have a very basic, I think, understanding of that, but tell us how that works.
Yeah, correct. So it is very similar to putting your cell phone on a wireless charger, just obviously a lot more power. And so the bus makes an alignment, and it's very precise. So there's a gauge right above the operator's head that shows your front to rear alignment and your side to side alignment. And we've taken steps to kind of, I don't know, like a cheat code in a video game, right? There's rub rails on the curb, so they can ride the tire right on that. That gets them perfectly side to side. And then there are colored pavers that you'll see right outside the service door. The operator, as the operator pulls up, lines the service doors up with that painted paver, and that gives them the front to rear. And their gauge will tell them all green or yellow, and then you make adjustments. And then the operator performs what we call a super kneel. So if it's picking up a passenger, the bus kneels so that the step is lower, but a super kneel drops it all the way down to where the tires are resting on top of the wheel well, and then that creates the magnetic field. And then it's very intuitive. So if I'm at a lower state of charge, it will give me all 4 coils full power, so 300 kilowatts immediately. And then as the state of charge rises, the system then says, okay, we're going to shut it down, coil 4, then 3, then 2, then 1, until you're at trickle charge or at fully charged.
Life expectancy of the battery, ultimately over the service life of the bus. What is that? Do you have an idea at this point? And how do you how do you dispose of that battery when it needs to be replaced?
Yeah, so obviously we haven't gotten there yet, but it's really about 6 years, and then at the 8 to 9 year mark, then you'll look at replacing single battery packs, and we have 6 battery packs on board every vehicle, so it gives us 440 kilowatts of power. Our goal is we will take the batteries off that need to be replaced and create a power wall back at our operations headquarters, where we can. The plan would be to line the top of the shop with solar panels, and then we could use that to power small tools or recharge a personal electric vehicle, for example. So we have some long-range plans that we'd like to, so we won't have to worry about disposing of them quite yet.
Yeah, so they kind of get recycled for smaller use, basically. Yeah. So these electric buses are really quiet, certainly from the outside. Is that a safety concern? Like people might not hear them coming?
Certainly is. Even though if you're standing at a bus stop and even a diesel bus approaches, it's very surprisingly quiet until the end of the rear of the bus where the engine is comes forward. But certainly these are a lot quieter. And we've reached out to a bunch of other properties, districts across the country, and asked kind of what did you do? Because especially those that have had BEBs out in service longer, and it's really a mixed bag. So some have the ambient noise. Some of my operators call it a spaceship noise that say like a Tesla or a hybrid car makes. Others have used a complete collision avoidance system, which actually will speak. So if it's driving down the road and a bicyclist or a pedestrian is there and the bus is going to turn, it'll say, "Caution, bus approaching." And then others said we don't have that problem. So we're really going to see how these play out, and then if we have, say for example, a need or a caution, then we might investigate something going further. But at this point, we're just still trying to figure this battery electric bus thing out.
Yeah. Are electric buses safe in general?
They're about as safe as a diesel or a CNG bus. Every vehicle has its things to be aware of. So, obviously with diesel and CNG, there's a fire. In a BEB, it's called a thermal event. So, those we have to be aware of, and we've certainly done our research on those. And really, it's for a battery electric bus, it's about prevention rather than suppression. So, we're putting together a completely comprehensive plan on what to do if that event ever happens. And then the rest of it is, if it happens, then what do we do?
And you mentioned CNG before. What does that mean?
Oh, CNG, compressed natural gas. So we have the 30 buses that run on renewable natural gas. So that's gas that comes from solid waste or dairy farms or something like that. So it's the green way of using natural gas.
So what would you most like the public to know about Cherriots' new battery electric buses at this point?
Well, I think the most important thing is you won't notice a difference other than they're quiet. Our buses, we're really proud of how our buses are very well maintained. Our mechanics and our service crews at the shop take very great care of our vehicles. They're clean. We have active air purifiers to address any sort of COVID in the future. So really it's just about enjoying a quieter ride and knowing that we're not producing any tailpipe emissions.
And when do these buses, this is the big question now, when do they go into service?
So we have some test buses that are out there now, and we've had great feedback so far on riders who have gotten on board in revenue service, and then the remaining 6 will start rolling out. We hope that they will be out in service by Thanksgiving, and then it'll be just another day in the life of Cherriots, rolling out service.
Well, we appreciate you taking the time to talk with us today, Tom.
Happy to do so.
More information on these new battery electric buses can be found at cherriots.org/ZEC, which stands for Zero Emissions Corridor. For videographers Hunter Winnan and Ashley Johnson from Route 11, I'm Clark Hilton for Salem Buzz on CC Media. Looks like this is my stop.